I'm Elika Liftee, the Director of Education at Onyx Coffee Lab in Northwest Arkansas, the two-time reigning U.S. Brewers Cup champion, and now here returning to the world stage as a world stage finalist. And I was third place in World Brewers Cup last year in Milan. So excited to be not only a finalist, but like a back-to-back finalist is really exciting. So I kind of had two concepts. My primary concept was curating a cup of coffee just for the judges, and kind of building out of that concept as I moved from nationals to worlds and got to connect even more with Immaculata coffee farms in Colombia. I got to learn to add a little bit of personality into that. So to curate their cups, I was building upon things that I've learned and collected for years and years. So drippers that were of the design, like the exact design that I've wanted for years. Filters that gave me the exact flow rate and shape that I wanted. Kettles that worked great. Coffees, obviously, that were amazing. And again, like learning over time, Dakota Graph, our roaster, one of the biggest impacts, I think, is our knowledge and learning over time of how to make minor adjustments in brewing, how to make minor adjustments in roasting, so that we can make an even better cup from one stage to the next, and hopefully culminating here in Melbourne. So the first plan to use that was simply because Dakota could roast much smaller batches on the Stronghold, and I had a focus in 2020 of sustainability. And so I wanted to not waste any of my competition coffee. If I was going to brew it, I wanted it to all be served and drank. And if we were going to roast it, I wanted to brew it all, either through practice and especially service. So it started because it was really small. And as we kept dialing in like that, we just realized that it was the best option, not only because we can make minor and repeatable adjustments, but especially because of the way it maintains specifically fruit esters and flavor compounds, even through greater development times. So we could roast what was an extremely soluble coffee, but maintaining delicate acidity and florals specifically. So I could get sweeter coffee that was just as soluble as a more developed roast in a drum roaster, but still had that really high acidity. So it was really great. Yeah, absolutely. So watching people roast on the Stronghold it's easy to follow along because you have that visual screen, that aid that you can also reference later on. So through that process, I got to dive even deeper into roasting, especially not being a professional roaster myself. It was helpful to see everything happen and how that translates to flavor, especially as we continued to roast more often. I could see these changes. And then eventually, Dakota is also our green buyer. When I needed to replicate a roast, I could pretty easily do that through the auto replicate function. And even a year later, if I wanted to reference that roast, I could pull that up, plug that in, and try to do that myself. So auto replicating, really straightforward. I love the ability to turn it back into manual mode after loading a profile so that I can match those adjustments and then stop it where I want to. But I've roasted batches of my coffees before through auto replication, and really easy to do, and just as good as Dakota does it. I've done some home roasting on some small batch roasters. I've done some drum roasting. The only one I've actually gotten like the proper training on is the Stronghold, but I feel much more confident in addressing this roaster from not only a beginner perspective, but intermediate, and then seeing more advanced roasters on it. Flavor-wise, I mean, you have that halogen and you have that hot air control and your bean agitation, and that's vertical drum. Your development is very even. Your control over that halogen and hot air based on density. I think Stronghold makes really great coffee. There's a reason why I keep wanting my competition coffee roasted on it because I think it tastes the best. I had an experience roasting for competition. We'll call it failing upwards, or a happy accident, I guess. So we were dialing in the roast profile for the fresh crop Sudan Rumé that I used here at Worlds. And we'd gotten maybe 2 or 3 profiles in, and it just wasn't quite where we wanted it. And Dakota had to go off and source green coffee, and I wanted a fresh roast of Sudan. So I found my old crop of Sudan Rumé that I used in the national competition, and I auto-replicated a roast for that same profile that I used. So the thing is, it was lower moisture content, lower water activity. So I probably should have developed it a little bit less than I did. And so tasted it, and I'm like, no, this is bad. We'll wait until Dakota gets back. We dial in that coffee. But now I get here to Melbourne, and I brought this past crop bag because I don't want to waste any coffee. And I open it up, and oh my goodness, it smells so stinking good. It's probably the best thing I've ever roasted. It's really, really good. So what I thought, when it was fresh, I was like, man, I blew it. It's a little bit too acidic, but it's also a little bit too developed. But now that it's like rested, oh my goodness, it's pretty dang good. Long term, I really love the idea of curated coffee subscriptions. Small lot, supplemented with traditional offerings, and I definitely see Stronghold as the option for that. I enjoy competing. It can be exhausting, but it's so much fun. We'll always have Onyx competitors to support, and maybe someday I get the bug for barista. But most recently, got an itch for SIGs. We'll see if that happens.